Some call them legends, some call them controversial. Ed and Lorraine Warren spent decades investigating the paranormal, claiming to have confronted ghosts, demons, and everything in between.
From haunted houses to objects said to carry curses, their cases have inspired books, movies, and debate. But who were Ed and Lorraine Warren, really?
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of They're Still Here. I'm David, and joining me is Jesse.
Hello.
Today, we'll explore the lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren, their work, their beliefs, and the investigations that made them both famous and infamous in the paranormal world.
And we'll also touch on the controversies surrounding them because their career wasn't without critics.
Exactly. And before we start, just a little bit of quick housekeeping. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has listened so far. I hope you're enjoying what you're hearing. Don't forget to give us a follow and a share on every one of our platforms. Help us grow this community.
Yeah, definitely,
Also,
definitely appreciate everyone.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we couldn't be here without you guys. So everything that you guys have done for us so far, we appreciate tremendously. Now, one
Yes.
thing that we're currently working on setting up more live streams, especially on my end. I plan on doing some extra live streams as the Gaming with the Founder nights. I feel like that's kind of a fun way for everybody to interact. Also, we are in the process of starting up a Patreon. Definitely be on the lookout for that on Facebook and in our Discord. And if you're not a member of our Discord yet, go ahead and jump on in there. It's free to join, and we try to be a lot of fun. And Jesse, do you have anything that you would like to throw in at the end of this housekeeping?
You pretty much, I believe, covered everything. Just remember to check out the Twitch channel for our antics on Sundays. And also, if you go there and check out the About section, you can find our link tree there, and that'll help you navigate everything that we offer.
And you'll also find our link tree in the show description below. Uh, and so definitely be sure to check that out. And also, if you're not already following her, Jesse, I'm going to give you another shout out here. Go
Oh,
ahead
no.
on Twitch as well and find Shadow Fox 812. Her channel's a lot of fun to watch. It's it's a blast. So if you haven't already followed her, I don't know what you're waiting on. You should
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
be.
David.
Not a problem at all. Now, without further ado, let's dive in to Ed and Lorraine. Ed Warren, born September 7th, 1926, was a self taught demonologist, and Lorraine Warren, born January 31st, 1927, was a clairvoyant and a medium. They married in 1952 and soon began investigating cases together.
They founded the New England Society for Psychic Research in 1952, one of the oldest paranormal investigative organizations in the United States. Their first high profile case, the infamous Amityville case of 1975.
Yeah, the 1975 Amityville case. If you guys don't know about that, that is the case of the Lutzes in 112 Ocean Avenue, which, the famous movie, The Amityville Horror, is based on. Uh, There's a lot going on saying that it was a big hoax, uh, but it really just depends. But also
Very
their
true.
work, but also their work went far beyond Amityville. They documented thousands of cases, ranging from minor hauntings to alleged demonic possessions. And they authored a lot of books about the subject. They also investigated well over 10,000 cases during their career, is what they claimed.
Well, just from
That's
everything that's listed that you can access, there's a lot of documented information. It's pretty impressive.
There are. Now, we'll get into a little bit of this later, I'm sure, but there's
Mhm.
also a lot of question about how accurate those records are, right? Like, because you run into a lot
True.
of situations, especially with the Warrens, where they would claim to have contacted the church, right? And the church, they said that the church would have approved an exorcism or this, that, and the other. While in reality, there was no contact to the church, or if there was, the church denied it.
Right. And that's one of those things that just it's kind of like a gray area because you never know if one side's telling the truth or the other one is. I mean, you hope they
Right.
both are.
Right. Well, to an extent, yeah. Like, I mean, there are some things about Ed and Lorraine Warren that personally I have learned recently, and I'll talk a little bit about in this episode that kind of put me off a little bit to some of their findings just because of the things that they have done, right? And
Which
I
is
don't want to,
understandable because some
yeah,
of it was fluff.
yeah, and I don't want to sit here and talk bad about anyone, right?
Correct.
Because
Especially of the dead.
whether you agree with what they did, how they did it or not, they still had a huge impact into the field, even if that's just getting it out into the public eye, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, you know, we got to call a spade at times too. That's something that we do is if there's something weird about what's going on or something that it seems immoral or seems, dishonest, we don't want to hide that fact.
Correct.
So, especially during this episode, I'm going to ask that our listeners keep an open mind and what we are sharing are things that we know to be true. Uh, and we're hoping for the best with
Yes.
it because these guys are really controversial at times. Uh, and so, Jesse, what are your thoughts on the Warrens person?
When it comes down to a lot of the documentation and a lot of things that are out there, I mean, it's I would have loved to have met them, honestly, when it comes down to everything that they've done, everything they've experienced, just to get, to hear them talk about the stories and see them up close. But I think the one thing that happened is once they started getting into more high profile cases, I think that's where they really ran into a lot of their criticism and critics out there not wanting to believe that she had abilities that were beyond, you know, recognition of a lot of psychics or a lot of clairvoyants or anything that's out there at that time. Um, I believe sometimes there might have been a little extra fluff added to it, especially when they became very, very popular. But honestly, when it comes down to it, I believe they were probably a couple amazing people. It doesn't matter what happened with the critics or anything else like that. I think that the main goal for them was the legitimacy of they are there to try to help people. And that was always my big thing is even if say some things that were brought back were maybe it's a good way to put it in the gray, like a gray area type situation that they like a dance around the truth almost. So you don't have
Right,
100% of what was actually said or what was there or what actually happened. But in regards of all that, I still believe that they were at least trying to help. So
right.
that's my 2 cents on them.
Yeah, and it's like, there are times like that, but then, and we'll definitely get into talking about this case later on,
Yes.
but I'm sure you've seen the movie, The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, right?
Yes, where they
So,
helped out with well, spoilers, um,
yeah,
because some
spoilers.
of it yeah, some of the talk will actually be through, dealing with that case,
Mhm.
um, because of the factor well, just like in the movie, a lot of stuff came through saying he was possessed, and that's the reason why that happened.
Right. And
So,
the
it's
problem
kinda
comes in,
hard
though.
to verify.
So the problem comes in, and I actually watched the documentary on Netflix. It's called The Devil
Mhm.
Made Me Do It,
Yes,
right?
and it's
It's
a good
the already.
documentary.
Oh yeah, it's a great documentary, but if you watch it all the way to the end, one of the sons that was involved,
Yes,
he points out a book to you
which I'm not
where,
surprised by.
well, Lorraine Warren told the mother that it would make him rich. But then I think they said that in the documentary, I think they said they got $1,500 out of all of it, and the Warrens kept the rest of it. And it's stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, they're the biggest thing that you said is they're people.
Yes.
People inherently make mistakes, they fall
Mhm.
short, right? That's just part
Yes.
of who we are as humans. And that's
Yes.
okay. However, my concern with that, especially with that case specifically, how much did that affect the outcome or their findings, right? And that's
Yeah.
something that's really hard to kind of ignore.
It's kinda like, whenever you see memes and things out there of, like, making fun of ghost hunters and
Hmm.
saying, "Well, we had to use this, we lost this because the ghost did this," or just, spouting whatever, and here's your
Right.
bill. So,
Yes.
it's kinda like that whole ordeal,
Yeah.
especially when I mean, that's one thing that always irked me a little bit is that's not the only book deal that's happened with,
Hmm.
I mean, I overread, I should say, um,
I
yeah,
overread.
that's it's a good way to put it because, yeah, you overhear stuff from people that are talking, but then you just come across something that you're reading one thing and come across something else. But,
Right.
sorry, squirrel brain.
Yeah.
Um, but how they actually is the whole situation where lawyers were involved and everything else to make sure someone got a payday.
Right. And it's like, that happened also in the case of the Lutz family haunting at
Yeah, same
Amityville.
difference.
The
Yep,
same
same
kind of
difference.
thing happened. The only difference is the Lutzes actually made some money off of it.
Yes.
Now, again, I'm not trying to speak ill of anybody. This is just stuff that came up in our research.
Yes.
Um, Now, before we get too much deeper into their controversies, which is something we'll touch on later in this episode, one thing I did want to talk about is their occult museum because I'm sure everybody would love to hear about that.
I mean, well, the
So,
craziest aspect is, well, some parts of that occult museum has been traveling. And I know that's been
oh,
all over the news. Everybody
yeah,
knows that Annabelle has been out and about outside of the museum. I really hope
Annabelle.
that that's not really her, that she's actually locked up in the museum and they just fixed up a false one
Mhm,
to travel with. I just, I don't know. I just really
right,
hope that's not the real one, especially when you overhear that, "Oh, she disappeared for a few days in New Orleans."
and
Hmm.
then an investigator died
Yes.
unexpectedly, and it's like now I don't personally like the Annabelle's on tour, but and I think she was in Louisville, what, last week or this
Yeah, she
week?
was at the Horror
And
Fest or whatever it is
yeah,
that's in town.
and it's like,
And it wasn't just her.
there's
They brought in several other occult items,
right.
stuff that is
And
cursed.
right. And that's kind of the thing. Like, so for those that don't know, Ed and Lorraine Warren, when they did investigations, they did do the investigations, but also they ran, it's called the Warren's Occult Museum, out of the back of their house in Monroe, Connecticut, with the help
Yes,
of
and
their
it was under lock
son-in-law.
and key.
Well, sort of. It was.
Well, unless they had the museum open for tours, but most of the
Yep.
time it was under lock and key. It
It
came,
was.
there was a preacher that would actually come in and bless the room
Mhm.
once a month, I think, or
Yeah.
once every other week. It was frequent.
It was. It was actually open to the public until 2019,
Hmm.
and uh, Tony Spira actually is the one that helped run it and was owned it as of
Yes.
2020, right? And basically, the museum would display claimed haunted objects and artifacts from around the world, and artifacts from the most famous investigations were featured there, like Annabelle, for instance.
Hmm.
Um, and then the museum had closed down due to zoning issues. I'm assuming that's in 2019. The research wasn't exactly clear on that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's still available to a select few individuals, right? And the house,
Yes.
uh, so the house now in August 25, they went around all over Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, TokTik, all that,
You said it right the first time.
and something like that. Twitter, because it'll never be X to me. It's always Twitter. But in August 2025, comedian Matt Rife announced that he and the YouTube personality Elton Casty purchased their home, the Warrens' home and museum,
Yes.
and they will be the legal guardians of all the artifacts until 2030. Matt Rife is going to allow people to come in and spend the night inside.
As like a haunted Airbnb kind of sort of.
Yeah, I'm not personally a huge fan of that, but to each their own. If that's
I'm
what you
not
want to
either
do,
because he's allowing them to do like their own ghost investigations and stuff. So it makes me wonder, is he giving them access, like full access to the museum? Because if
apparently,
so, things are not going to go well.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, because let's be honest. When people stay at an Airbnb, what's one of the first things they do? They open
Start
every
investigating.
they
Yeah.
open every freaking cabinet,
Yeah. Start
you
checking
know?
everything.
Yeah, checking it
Most
out,
of the
this, that,
time,
and the
you're
other.
checking that Airbnb for cameras most of the time.
Exactly.
Making sure that you are secure enough with yourself to be able to sleep under a roof of someone else's home and not be spied upon.
Right. And definitely stay safe out there. But
Yes.
you know, if I can make a recommendation, maybe if you do stay at the Warrens' home like that, just stay out of the museum. Give
And
it
be respectful
give it the space and the respect that it deserves.
because there's a
And
reason why there's signs on that in the museum saying do not touch any of the items
exactly. And I
because the cursed items, that's how it transferred over to a lot of people.
right, and I'm really hoping that Matt Rife and this Elton Casty will take that seriously and that protection of those things. And
Agreed,
I hope,
100%.
yeah, and I really hope that they do well with this. I
Yes.
hope they do it in a safe manner. And let's be honest, hopefully they make some money. You know what I mean? Because that's
Oh,
that's
you
the
know they
whole
will.
point of it. Yeah, yeah.
But
I
the
hope
one the
they
only thing
succeed.
that makes me happy is with them owning it, at least I know they have respect whenever it comes down to it because they do ghost investigations as well. They have, I believe, a podcast of their own, or at least Cassidy does, the YouTube personality. Did I pronounce his last name right? I feel bad if I didn't.
Casty.
Casty. I
Yeah,
did say it
Casty.
wrong. My bad. I apologize.
Sorry,
Um,
Mr. Casty.
Right. But just because of the fact of all the stuff and work that he's been doing, I have watched some of his stuff, and honestly, he does respect everything that's there and everything that he deals with. And he's taken Matt Rife to a lot of locations for those ghost investigations. So I
Now,
really hope things go well. And yeah, I
if
just
I'm
hope
not mistaken,
no negative things happen.
This isn't the same guy that did the Dybbuk boxes, is it?
No, 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 no. I don't believe
Okay.
so.
Yeah, because that's like Adventure Guys or something like that. I don't remember what channel that was. It's the first time I saw that, right? But like there was one
Yeah.
guy on that channel like would constantly open Dybbuk boxes. And
Which is just no, 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 no,
yeah,
no.
don't mess
I
with Dybbuk boxes. We may do a small short or something on Dybbuk boxes just to kind of give you an idea of what they are.
like the
But I
history and what they pertain
yeah,
to, stuff like that. So
I
you
don't
guys understand how to be safe.
yeah, and I don't think that there's enough information there to do a full episode.
Well, it just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah,
But
so
we'll see what
it's
we could do.
yeah, yeah, because we do plan on doing some extra shorts and stuff for things that don't have enough meat on the bone to do a full episode, right?
Yes.
So we'll do that. Um, but without further ado, let's start digging into these notable investigations we keep referencing.
Agreed. Some of the most famous cases include the Perrin family farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, the basis for The Conjuring, the Amityville Horror, 112 Ocean Ave, Long Island, New York, the Enfield poltergeist case in England, which they consulted on remotely.
And perhaps one of the most controversial cases was the 1981 trial of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, often referred to as the Devil Made Me Do It case.
Johnson was charged with the murder of his landlord, Alan Bono. His defense attempted to claim demonic possession as a reason for his actions, with Ed and Lorraine Warren called in to investigate.
The Warrens reported that 11-year-old David Glatzel had been possessed by a demon, and that Johnson challenged the demon to leave David and enter him instead. They testified to this in court.
The judge rejected demonic possession as a defense, and Johnson was convicted of first degree manslaughter, serving 5 years.
This case inspired books, films, and documentaries, including The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is the third movie in the series, and Netflix's The Devil on Trial.
Then you also have to look at several other cases that Ed and Lorraine has dealt with, and that's inspired for books and movie as well. You have, let's see, according to the Warrens in 1970, two roommates said their Raggedy Ann doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle. And from what they were saying, the name was actually Annabelle Higgins. Mostly everybody knows her as Annabelle and just left it as that. The Warrens took the doll, telling the roommates it was being manipulated by an inhuman presence, and put it on display in the family's occult museum. But as you heard, the legend of the doll actually goes through several movies pertaining to the Conjuring universe. And also, like we spoke of earlier, that's the one that's been on tour as of late.
Yeah. And for
But then
those that
you,
don't
oh,
know, when they say being manipulated by an inhuman presence, they're referring to a demon.
yes, usually anything that's not what they classify as a spirit or ghost or anything like that, it's usually a demonic possession of some sort.
Well, especially with the Warrens. The Warrens, if it was an inhuman presence, it was always a
Yeah, it was
demon.
definitely demonic. Yeah,
Yeah. It was never like
100%.
a it was never like an earth spirit or ancient spirit or even a god. It was always a demon, right?
Yes,
So, I just wanted to clarify that before we moved on.
that sounds good to me. And also, we can't forget about the ones we spoke of recently. The Perrin family. 1971, the Warrens claimed that the Harrisville, Rhode Island home of the Perrin family was haunted by a witch who lived there in the 19th century. So, as you guys know from the previous podcast, we spoke about a woman that was named Bathsheba Sherman, is who the Warrens classified or actually stated that's who was doing the haunting. So apparently, she sacrificed her baby to this baby son to the devil, and then after that, cursed the land. So whoever lived there died a terrible death. Um, as you guys know, if you've seen the movie The Conjuring, that's the basically the baseline story for that movie. Lorraine Warren was a consultant to the production and appeared in a cameo role in the film.
I've seen that movie countless times. I love that movie. Right, the Conjuring
It's a great
movies. I
movie.
I love the Conjuring movies. They're fun.
Yes.
I never noticed that Lorraine made a cameo in.
Well, here's the funny thing. You don't notice her, but she's in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it again now and see because I
Yeah,
I never noticed.
we'll have to do that. We'll go piece by piece and see if we can find her. Because I it states in there that she does a cameo. It's not like a big cameo like you always see in the Marvel movies with Stan Lee, but
Right. Yeah, it could just be her walking across the screen or something, or
something
you
simple
know,
or just
yeah,
like just something in the distance or a glance. Heck, she could be
right.
in the audience whenever they were doing the stuff for the colleges.
That's entirely possible. Um, you know,
So now
now
we're gonna have to look through it again.
yeah, we're gonna have to sit down and watch it.
Oh yeah, most
Another
definitely.
really big case, like we mentioned earlier, is the Amityville Horror, right? So they're best known for their involvement in the 1975 Amityville haunting, in which a New York couple, George and Kathy Lutz, said their house was haunted by a violent demonic presence so intense that it actually drove them out. So there was a book that came out called The Amityville Horror Conspiracy, in which Stephen and Roxanne Caplan characterized the Hook case as hoax. Uh, Lorraine said that it wasn't. He said, she said stuff. The reported haunting was the basis for a 1977 book called The Amityville Horror and adapted into the 1979 and 2005 films of the same name, while also serving as an inspiration for the films that followed. Uh, the Warrens' versions of events is partially adapted and portrayed in the opening sequence of The Conjuring 2. Uh, and according to Benjamin Radford, the story was refuted by eyewitnesses, investigations, and forensic evidence. In 1979, William Weber, the attorney for George and Kathy Lutz, said that he, Jay Anson, and the occupants invented the horror story over many bottles of wine. Now,
So that's the hard part is like you said, when it comes down to many of these stories or in cases of like actual things that occurred, it's hard to prove,
yeah, it's
especially
a
back
lot of
then.
he said she said,
It's a
right?
hell of a lot of he said, she said.
And it's like that's kind of the thing with this whole field is unless you're there to actually see it, it's really really hard.
100%. I agree. And when it comes down to it, that's kind of like you're going to laugh at me for this one,
Ha ha
but
ha
it's
ha
kind of
ha.
like
Oh wait.
oh, hush. I'm thankful for like the cell phones and everything else that you have today because everything is so well documented. It's ridiculous. And kids are doing it all the time and they don't realize that they're documenting their lives and putting them on the internet, which never goes away. No matter how hard you try to bury anything you post out there, it is always there. Um, so a lot of the information that's out there anymore, I mean, there's people filming accidents or filming anything that they see. So it's almost like, there's proof out there, just have to find it. In this
Right.
day and age, it's a little easier. Back then, not so much. There was nothing when it came
Yeah.
down to that. I mean, hell, when we were growing up, well, okay, maybe when I was growing up, cell phones weren't a thing.
Right.
Video cameras, any of that type of stuff. Not really a well known documented thing.
Right.
Now I'm
And
dating myself. Crap.
it well, and one thing, because we do intend on doing investigations, field investigations with
Yes.
Rice Paranormal Research Group. One thing that I have been considering investing in is body cams for
Yes.
everybody to wear during the investigation because I want everything to be documented.
Yes. First person view.
Exactly.
And I'm
And
okay with that. As the
yeah,
lead investigator, I am down for that because that'll also keep us safe.
exactly. And that's the biggest thing. It's all about safety, transparency, right?
Yes,
Safety
100%.
always comes first,
Yes.
but transparency is a huge point for us.
Very much so because the fact I want people to see what we see, experience what we
Exactly.
experience, and it's proof that's nothing is doctored. Because all the stuff that you see on TV, how do you know if it's real or not? How do you know if they're
Right.
just doctoring footage for ratings or for views? For
Well, and
us, it's like
even
we want the truth out there. So,
even the show Ghost Hunters admitted that there were things that were played up
yes, very
during their
much so.
investigations, like
And
one of the
that
biggest shows.
oh,
And
drives me
Taps
nuts.
is Taps themselves is probably one of the best paranormal investigation groups I've seen in a long time. Like I have nothing but respect for Taps,
Yes,
especially since they came out and said, "Hey, some of that stuff was played up."
but not all.
Right. Right. And it's just but they made it a point to be transparent, and I absolutely love that.
Yes.
And so
And they
anytime
dipped into more than just standardized ghost hunting, which was pretty fantastic. I mean, they did everything to break out like history to supernatural to anything dealing with the occult. I mean, they actually dove into a lot of different things.
right, they kind of took over the role that like Hans Holzer and Lorraine Warren kind of filled, right?
Yeah.
And they just kind of started doing. Now,
Yes.
another thing that Ed and Lorraine Warren was in 1977, they investigated claims that a family in the North London suburb of Enfield was haunted by poltergeist activity. Now, the Warrens consulted on that case remotely. Now, it is the basis for The Conjuring 2.
Yes.
Uh, now, The Conjuring 2 makes it so they go over there and they're staying there. They're the ones helping out. But in reality, it was a guy, Lion Playfair, who was a parapsychologist, and he investigated the Enfield case alongside Maurice Grosse, right?
Hmm.
And there were several independent observers that dismissed the whole incident as carried out by attention-hungry children, but the Warrens were convinced that it was a case of demonic possession. Go figure.
Yeah.
You're, you're going to hear that a lot in this episode. Um, and at one point, uh, Guy Lion Playfair made a comment about the one time that Ed Warren showed up to the Enfield house.
Hmm.
And Ed apparently told him that they could make a lot of money out of the case.
Yes.
And Playfair also corroborated the claim that the Warrens were not even invited to the Enfield house and that nobody in the family had ever heard of him until Ed showed up.
Yes.
So they do have a little bit of a habit of inserting themselves. And sometimes you have to do that in these cases, but in a lot of my research, there seems to be a lot of that going.
Sad but true.
And so the next one, Jesse, have you ever seen the movie The Haunting in Connecticut?
Yes.
Okay. So the Snedeker family haunting was in 1986, which, in the movie, it's a former funeral home, which is
Yes, it
true.
is.
Uh, Now, the Warrens arrived and declared that that house was, wait for it, infested by demons. So there
Well,
have
you
been
gotta
books,
remember he studied demonology. Like
and they
that
were
was his.
also,
So it's everything pertained to anything and everything that was listed
and
via his studies.
they were also devout Catholics.
Yes. So
And
anything and everything
so
is going to have that
the thing
angle.
about Catholicism is they view basically there's no ghosts, right? Like,
Correct.
but a lot of times that's the devil or that's a demon, right? And you can definitely see that poking through in this, which just kind of proves kind of a, number one, a confirmation bias. It kind of
Yes.
proves that your own personal theology, ideology will always play a role in anything that you look at, right?
Hmm.
And so it's I'm not ragging on them when I say that. I know it sounds like it, but you know, it's one of those things where we have differing beliefs, right? When it comes down to that. I don't think
Yes.
that everything's a demon, while Ed kind of points out everything's a demon, right?
Yeah.
And so I here's one of the biggest things about it, right? So Garten, right?
Hmm.
Uh hold on, Ray Garten, who wrote an account of the alleged haunting of the Snedeker family, told Benjamin Radford, who was another paranormal investigator, about
Hmm.
Lorraine. If she told me the sun would come up tomorrow morning, I'd get a second opinion.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, I don't know if you're noticing this trend in every single one of these cases.
Hmm.
It seems to be there's a lot of question, but the problem comes in like there's a lot of question, for instance, with Ed and Lorraine, whether or not they're doing it right, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times these critics aren't really giving a whole lot more than I just don't like it. And it's like,
Right. Right. And
so I
and the
think,
hard part is that I've always wondered, and not to, you know, make it sound worse than it is. Um, I always wondered, just even though they perceive to have a loving relationship and everything, but I always wondered if Ed was using Lorraine for her abilities. Like, I really
s-
truly believe she had something, because of the fact some of the cases and some of the stuff that the police brought him in on, she was actually able to pinpoint where something was.
right. And it's
So
like,
it just makes you wonder.
right. And it's like sometimes you wonder exactly what's going on behind the
Mhm.
scenes.
Yes.
And, again, I'm not trying to defame anybody, but, I've got to point out the research that I've done.
Agreed.
And now, one more thing that we're going to talk about with their cases. Jesse, why don't you tell them basically about the Conjuring Last Rites?
Well, I can say this much. I have yet to watch this movie. I know, it's sad. I should have seen it already. Uh,
I would love to.
but I do know the backstory behind it. It is about Pennsylvania residents Jack and Janet Smurl. They report, yeah, if I could talk today, they reported their home was disturbed by numerous supernatural phenomenon, including everything from sounds, smells, and even apparitions. Um, I don't know how they got involved, but apparently the Warrens were involved in this case as well. They claimed that the small home was occupied by four spirits and also a demon that allegedly sexually assaulted Jack and Janet. So, I mean, I don't know how far that goes. I've heard actual situations with, not including the Warrens, by the by,
Hmm.
just from other investigations done by other ghost hunters and other things that have occurred from that, where people were actually physically assaulted, and it didn't matter if it was physically or sexually. I mean, I've actually read there was cases of that happening, which is crazy.
Right.
um but also, the Smurls, if you guys want to read it yourself and find out about the information on Jack and Janet, the Smurls version of their story was the subject of a 1986 paperback, The Haunted, and they actually made a television film of the same name. So, and then also that storyline was used, as he said, for The Conjuring Last Rites, the newest movie.
Right. And when it comes down to like this, the idea of sexual assaults by an unseen entity, right?
Hmm.
A little bit of foreshadowing there. So the movie, The Entity, the case that is based off of is called the Entity case, right?
Yes.
It's out of California, and there was a single mom who apparently was sexually assaulted multiple times by spirits in the home. So that kind of
Yes.
stuff does happen. So, you know, it's definitely something that's possible. But
Because you never know what is physically possible, and that's the crazy part.
right, and that's the thing about all of this. You never know what's actually possible.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean, it's scary to think about when it comes down to a lot of it.
it really is. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out is what can we do about it? Is there something that we can help with in some way?
Just
Right?
help getting the truth out there is my main thing.
Right.
Like, I
Getting the
want to be
truth
able
out
to
there.
help others with their situations, and also, I mean, bring some history along with it, and help other people just learn more about what's out there.
Exactly. And throughout their investigations, Ed collected evidence like photos and recordings, while Lorraine used her clairvoyance to communicate with spirits. They categorized entities into ghosts, demons, and angels, emphasizing the danger of malevolent forces. Ed and Lorraine believe spirits linger due to unfinished business, unresolved trauma, or curses.
They also claimed that objects could carry spiritual energy, potentially causing hauntings or possession, and that evil entities feed off fear or emotional distress.
Their investigations often included blessings, rituals, or exorcisms. Lorraine sensed spirits, while Ed documented physical phenomena. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a look at Ed and Lorraine Warren, their life, their work, enduring legacy, and even some of the criticism in the world of the paranormal.
If you haven't already, check out our Harrisville Haunting episode first to learn about one of the most famous cases they've investigated. Stay tuned because the world of the paranormal is never quiet.
It never is. And as always, thank you so much for listening to They're Still Here. My name is David,
And I'm Jesse.
and you guys stay curious, stay safe, and we will see you soon.
My name is Jesse. Thank you for tuning in to They're Still Here. Be sure to follow us on all our social media and join our Discord. Check our link tree for all of our links. Our theme is SCP X7X, 6th Floor by Kevin MacLeod and Compotech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Stay curious, stay safe. We will see you soon.